Hey YouTube, it's Magician34, and by popular demand, I'm going to give you the briefest possible rundown of Magic the Gathering, what it's about, how you play it, etc. This isn't by any means going to be something that you can, waltz out and play it right away, but it gives you kind of an idea if you know nothing about Magic the Gathering, what it's all about. Um, this is a Magic the Gathering card. Basically, these cards come in 5 colors, and sometimes they're combined. But there's white, which kind of stands for like order and justice and the good guys a lot of the time, kind of feel-wise. And then there's blue. This is sort of like more like deep thinking and strategy, cunning, that sort of thing. Green, which is like nature and power and all the things you kind of associate with those things. Then we've got red, which is your sort of, well, fiery, passion, act now, think later kind of thing. And then you've got black, which is the, well, I've heard it stressed by the creators of Magic that they're not the bad guys of Magic, but they're about as close as you get, really. They're sort of about selfishness and power at any cost kind of thing. And each of these colors is valid in its own way, and there is not a best or worst color of Magic. And as sets rotate through, they have a kind of a standard that's like the last 2 years approximately of cards that you can play in, but you can play, really any format you want, going back even to the beginning of the game. And Magic the Gathering is the oldest trading card game ever, by the way, guys. It's the first. Just so you know, not just first in like the States or anything, but first in the world. So yeah, and if you want to play with your friends or just learn to play with whatever format you want, really. Just know that like any game, the further back it goes, the more powerful decks have the potential to become. But anyway, um, so yeah, these are all creature cards. Creatures are in many ways kind of your bread and butter, but not always. Not as much as in games like, say, Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon, where obviously creatures are, for the vast majority of decks, pretty much everything you've got. Um, and they come in various sizes. Um, they've got a cost up here. Um, this may not come through on my camera's resolution, but that's 3 and then 2 white symbols. That means well, I have different ways of producing mana, but mana is basically how you pay costs. I can pay 3 in any kind I want, and then 2 that are white to pay for this card. And she's got 4/4, which is like 4 is how much damage she deals that first one, and that second number is how much it takes to defeat her, essentially. And she's got special abilities and even flavor text. One thing that's really nice about this game, especially coming from, say, another popular game like Yu-Gi-Oh!, you get a lot more cool flavor text on the cards in Magic, which is nice. Um, and I won't bother to get into all of this by details. But I will show you, there are these what's called basic lands that you can run any number of you want in your deck. Your deck would normally consist of 60 cards, minimum, no maximum. And every card is limited to 4 of a copy except these basic land cards. Now there are non-basic land cards which can have cool effects or produce multiple colors of mana maybe, depending. But these are sort of your basic lands. And you can tap them, just like a lot of cards, almost any card can tap in theory, which is kind of like exhausting it. When you tap it, it's essentially spending its effort for the turn. When you tap a land, you can make 1 mana of that color, which you can then use to play and cast other things. So there you go, sort of a very generic, very quick go through. But there's more than just these creatures. Oh, and by the way, this is what a gold creature looks like, if you were curious. Gold is just a combination of 2 or more of the colors of Magic, and yes, there are even 5 color cards. This one costs 3, 1 blue, and 1 red. By the way, if you like fantasy stuff, especially like dragons, you're going to love Magic, because it's just chocked full of them. But Magic's got a little sling for everybody, which is one of the reasons it's so enjoyable. There are also cards which are artifacts. This is actually an artifact creature, and they're basically just colorless all the way through, so you can pay with anything to get them, which is really nice. But there are also cards like these, enchantments, which stay in play all the time, and you cast them just like you would a creature by paying their cost, but they don't just instantly go to your graveyard, which is your discard pile. Instead, they stay on the field, and they have some kind of continuous effect or an effect you can pay to activate or something like that. There are also sorceries, which are cards you can play during your own main phase, just more or less during your own turn, and they have some kind of an effect. But after they get their effect, they disappear. They go to your graveyard. There are also instants, which are like sorceries, only they can be played pretty much any time during either player's turn. They're not as restricted as sorceries, but obviously they don't always pack the punch of a sorcery because of the flexibility of their speed. But you still cast all these cards the same way. Pay their cost, get their effect. But one thing that's kind of new since last time I played is there are even cards like these, which are called Planeswalkers. Now, the premise of Magic is that you are a Planeswalker, and you're summoning all these creatures and spells and artifacts from all these different planes of existence, all these different dimensions. Well, Planeswalker cards are actually essentially other players that you can summon to help you. Yeah, this kind of stands in for a player for you. But you call them to your side, and they act mostly like another player, except that they have all these cool effects. Um, Realistically speaking, outside of the flavor of them being another player, they're more or less like a creature that doesn't attack. But if you want to get into those specific mechanics, I suggest you visit the wizards.com site, which has Magic the Gathering, and learn a little bit about it, or go to any one of a number of good gaming sites, check out some Wikipedias, do a little research. Because it is a big game, it's very popular, and for good reason. And if it weren't for games like this, you wouldn't have any other game, because after all, this was the first game. At least the first trading card game, I should say. So if you like trading card games at all, but have never really gotten into Magic, I mean, maybe this could be your chance to take a look at it a little bit deeper. If you're curious, go out, learn more yourself. Don't just, expect this to teach you everything. Go to your local game store. I'm sure someone will be willing to teach you. And usually Magic players are pretty cool. So give it a try. And until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and check out my channel for more cool gaming content.